Hey everyone, how you doing? It's Craig Campbell from Pastor Craig's Vintage Cards, and don't be fooled by this hat. I'm wearing this hat today and thinking about my good friend Chris from Missouri. Gave us this nice gift last year at the National, and he stayed at our frat house with us there at the National in Cleveland, and just had a really fun time. But in Chris's videos, he always ends with saying, "Remember, guys, it's just a hobby. Collect what you like." And today, that's kind of what this video is going to be about collecting what I like. And, I just retired in early January, and I haven't bought any cards since the end of December. And there's a lot going on in our life. We had to move and just getting everything figured out. And so it's just been kind of a time to take a break. But I've still been enjoying the hobby because I've got a lot of cards from my when I was a kid in the 70s. And so what I've been doing is I've been going back to to where my original roots were at in collecting, and that's really with the early football cards and baseball cards from the late 60s into the mid to late 70s. And so I've went through my boxes of my football cards, and I'm going to be building a set, and it's going to be really like a multi-set. It's going to be one card from each player from the 70, 71, 72 and 73 set. So like Johnny Unitas is in every set, 70, 71, 2 and 3. So I've selected one Johnny Unitas card. But then there's other guys like, for example, Fred Carr of the Green Bay Packers. This is his only card, was in the 73 set. So I'm taking one card from each player, and that way I have every player that was on a card in 70, 71, 2 and 3, he'll be represented in that set. And I'm doing the same for eventually 74, 5, 6, and 7, 78, 79, 80, and 81. So it's really a good way for me to enjoy the roots of my hobby and to put together these sets and just really remember some of the guys from when I was a kid. And most of these cards, like this Fred Carr card, it's one that was from when I had it as a kid. And it's I'm looking for cards that aren't creased or really tattered too bad to put in the set. But as I've been going through there, I've been doing research on every single player. And again, remember, I'm retired now, so I've got all this free time at home. But I'm going through Wikipedia and Football Reference and looking up each and every player and getting some information so I can put that in the set along with the card. And I've come across some amazing players and some facts about different guys, and I wanted to share them with you. And I was thinking about Chris and what he says, that it's a hobby, and that's the truth of it. I mean, I love the great cards, and I'm going to show you some really nice cards I have that remind me of Chris. But I love the great cards, but I also love and so enjoy the common cards of the players that take me back to the late 60s, early 70s when I first started getting into football. And it reminds me of my mom and my dad and my friends and my brothers and sisters, and just the joy of opening up a 1972 football pack or a 72 basketball or 71 baseball. Those things were just so much fun. And sure, I love the great cards that are slab, but I also really enjoy these common cards. So I'm going to show you some cards, and I hope you enjoy it. They're mainly going to be football cards, but let me get the camera turned around, and I'll show you what I got. Alrighty, and again, to honor my friend Chris, I just wanted to show you some of my favorite cards. I know that are some of his favorites too. The 75 George Brett rookie card, just a great card. And I got this from Sammy Thunder actually last year in 2024. So this reminds me of Chris and reminds me of Sammy Thunder. Just love the 75 George Brett rookie card. This is probably one of my favorite cards from the 80s. Of George Brett. I love the 83 set, and that's just one of my favorite cards. And so those two cards, in a way, they remind me of Chris from Missouri, because I know that George Brett is one of his favorite players. And also, these cards remind me of Chris, a beautiful 62 Stan Musial, and because I know Chris said in Missouri, like Stan the man, he's the man. And I got that card from B-Roth here at the end of 2024. So I love that 62 Musial. His last card was 63. I'm going to be looking to get that eventually. And this is really one of my favorites, this beautiful 1960 Stan Musial. Just a great card. I love the 60 set. Just a fantastic card. And then, just for Chris, because of his new series, which I really enjoy, just a bit outside, I think he highlighted Tim McCarver in one of his episodes as being just a bit outside as far as a Hall of Famer goes. And if not, I'm almost sure that he did have mentioned Tim McCarver. I love that card. It's a great card. Love the 69 cards, and I love the 69 cards, and not so much the Cardinals, but I do I do like that set a lot. And I like the colors on that. That's just really, really cool. But anyways, as I was telling you, I was going through a lot of my football cards, building the set with the 70s, 71, 72, and 73. And, just a few guys like Fred Carr. He had a great career with the Green Bay Packers. He played for almost 10 years, and he's in the Packer Hall of Fame. But that's his rookie card, and he played in like 68. So, I mean, he didn't have a card until he had almost 5 years in the league. Here's another guy, Ernie Callaway, and you can see that was his only card. He was only played for the Eagles for a few years, and so I pulled out his card. It's the only card he has, and here's a really interesting card, Leroy Caffey. Now, what the thing that's so wild about this is, he played for the Bears, but he's got a Packer uniform on. Yeah, the Packers traded him to the Chicago Bears, and that's just a funny card to me because he's wearing the Packer jersey with the Bears team, and a great Green Bay Packer, Leroy Caffey. Ended up playing for the Chargers and the Cowboys too. Here's another interesting, George Bird. Looked him up, amazing stats. With the Bills, he was such a great player. And, different guys, you'll remember this one, Doug Buffone, all-time leader for the Bears in games played. A really good linebacker, Nick Bonacani. Here's an interesting guy, Ed Budd. He was played for the Chiefs, and his son, Brad Budd, I believe his name was Brad, was drafted by the Chiefs also in the first round. The only father-son team to be drafted by the same team in the first round. And really interesting. Here's a great guy. Man, I'm telling you, Buck Buchanan, what a great player he was. I remember my dad always saying, big, bad Buck Buchanan. And here's a guy, Ross Brubacher. Again, his only card, never heard of him, didn't do much. Here's a great player, Willie Brown. I got two to choose from, the 72 and the 71 Willie Brown. Only one's going to go in that set. And that's some great cards like the John Brody in action. I got a 73 John Brody, my all-time favorite player, John Brockinson. This guy here, I am going to do a video on him because he's an important person in the NFL. So I'm going to do a video on Marlon Briscoe, the great backup, Zeke Bratkowski. This guy here, I just found out after going through and doing some research, John Bramlett. And John Bramlett was considered to be the nastiest, toughest player in NFL history. And believe it or not, there's a book called Taming the Bull, the John Bull Bramlett story. And I'm going to be reading this here. And I bought the book because of that card. So, never heard of him before, didn't know anything about him. I mean, he's been in my box of cards I've had for 50 or so years. Here's another guy I'm going to do a video on, Garland Boyette. And he's got a significant role in the NFL as well. Here's one of my favorite names ever, Emerson Boozer. There's a great George Blanda. Excuse me. Lim Barney, Hall of Famer from the Detroit Lions. Great player. Well, I was having a coughing spell there. Here's a name a lot of people know it, Lance Allworth, great player. Kermit Alexander. I did not know this, but Kermit Alexander is the guy that tackled Gale Sayers when they blew out Gale Sayers' knee. It was a clean tackle. It just happened to take out Gale Sayers. Here's another great one, Herb Adderley. A great Packer legend wearing that cowboy uniform. How interesting is that? And lastly, there's a Dan Obramowitz. So I'm going like through my A's up to B's. I'm into the early C's right now. And again, putting together the set of NFL players, 70, 71, 2, 3 of each and every player. Again, you're going to have a guy like Ernie Callaway. That's his only card, so that's going in the set. And then I've got a guy like John Brody who's got cards in every year. And I'm going to just choose one of the cards. This is his last card. But man, I love those Pro Action cards from the 72 set. So one's going to go in there. And this is just, it's going to be a fun set to build. It's going to take some time. But I'm really going to enjoy it. And what I've been doing, again, because I'm retired, I've got all this time in my hand, is I've been going through and typing up a list about each and every player. And you can see, just like, for example, this Chuck Allen. His rookie card is in 64. He had cards issued. You can read it yourself, but it's stuff about Chuck that you never would know. And the thing is, I didn't know this, but he's in the Chargers Hall of Fame. And here's another cool thing. Chuck served as a Seattle Seahawks vice president of football operations for 20 years. He joined the team in 75. So Chuck Allen was the very first GM for the Seattle Seahawks. And I had no idea. And there's his card. And that's the thing, that's the beauty about collections. And when Chris says it's a hobby, collect what you like, it is a hobby. It's a hobby. And I love old football cards, and I'm collecting what I like. And I'm not spending any money because I've got all these cards in a box. So that's a great thing. But I wanted to share with you, if I can find it, a story today about a player named Gino Cappelletti. There we go. Gino Cappelletti. This is from the 1970 top set. Now, the thing about Gino Cappelletti, he's got an amazing story. And Gino graduated from the University of Minnesota, the Gophers, in 1954 or 55. And he was undrafted in football. So he went up to Canada, and he played actually on the rugby team in Canada in 56 and 55. He served in the U.S. Army in 57. He went back and tried out for the CFL, the Canadian Football League, in 58. Two different teams, didn't make it, so he goes back and he plays rugby. He goes back to Minnesota, and he's a bartender. Yeah, that's what I said. He's a bartender in Minnesota when the AFL was created. And he asked the Patriots for a tryout. And sure enough, the Patriots gave him a job. So here's this guy that goes from the Gophers in college to rugby, to the U.S. Army, to the CFL, back to rugby, to tending a bar in Minnesota. And he gets a tryout with the Patriots, and he sticks. And not only does he stick, but Gino Cappelletti is the all-time leading scorer for the Patriots. And not only is he the all-time leading scorer, but he was the AFL MVP in 1964. He was the AFL's leading scorer as he scored 42 touchdowns, had 176 field goals, 342 point-after attempts. He led the league in scoring 5 times. He was an all-star 5 times, and he was the AFL MVP in 1964. Again, we're talking about a guy that was tending bars in Minnesota to become the AFL MVP in 64. He had 2 seasons where he scored, where he was the league leader, or he had 2 seasons, where he was scored 155 points and then 147. And this is in 1961 and 64 during 14-game seasons. He is the only player, get this, the only player in the NFL history to run for a 2-point conversion, to pass for a 2-point conversion, to catch a pass, intercept a pass, return a punt, and return a kickoff all in the same season. That just blows me away. He scored 18 points over 10 times, 20 points over more than 8 times, and he holds the AFL record for scoring in a game with 28 points. He played his entire career at Fenway Park. There was no football stadium for the Patriots. He's in the Patriots Hall of Fame, and his number 20 is retired by the Patriots. But you know what? Gino Cappelletti is not in the NFL Hall of Fame. But here's the cool part. I think this is so cool, too, that Gino and Gil Santos, they worked for 28 years on Patriots radio. They called 585 games together, to include 6 Super Bowls. So you think about it. Gino Cappelletti, this card, it's a common card from the 1970 set. But Gino Cappelletti was a guy that kicked field goals. He had to beg the coach with Minnesota to even kick a field goal because they weren't kicking field goals very much in college back then. He goes to the rugby league in Canada, to the U.S. Army, to the CFL, tendon bars. He clings on with the Patriots, and he becomes like the all-time leading scorer in the AFL. His numbers retired. I mean, this is an amazing, amazing story of a guy that is in my box of commons. And I got to imagine that most of you guys probably really, if you've heard of Gino Cappelletti, you probably don't know much about him. And no, he's not related to John Cappelletti, who was the Heisman winner for Penn State in the early 70s, a great running back in college. But yeah, Gino Cappelletti, just a great player, you know. And I'm going to tell you right now, Chris from Missouri is right. It's only a hobby, guys. Collect what you like. And I'll tell you right now, what I'm really liking right now, and it's not costing me a penny, are these football cards from 70 through about 78. And I'm having a blast going through them, finding the guys that I want to include, and putting them in my set. And it's just a good time. And I'm finding guys, again, just guys like Deacon Jones, Ken Inman, Rich Jackson, Cornelius Johnson. And they don't have to be perfect cards. Look at that. There's a card it's severely miscut. But you know what? I love it. Jim Kick, Pro Action. Leroy Kelly. Just great players. Here's a beautiful card. Look at that card. Joe Cap. Joe Cap. I love these 71 cards. What an awesome, awesome card that is. Joe Cap with the Patriots. Most people remember him with the Vikings. But you know what? I'm having a blast pulling these cards out of my box. Old Charlie Krieger, he always looked like a grandpa on those cards. He always looked so old. But this has been such a fun time, and I'm enjoying the hobby, and I'm not spending a penny doing it. And what more can you say about that? That's just a great way to experience this hobby. But anyways, guys, I've rambled on long enough, and I'm just going to throw the last word to my good friend Chris. Remember, guys, it's only a hobby. Collect what you like.